Can you say friends, talking, nerdy? Close enough.
If your friends are nerdy and you are nerdy too, I want to talk to you. Friends Talking Nerdy.
Welcome to Friends Talking Nerdy. This is Tim the Nerd, and seated next to me we have a very cozy Professor Aubrey. And this week we are going to be reeling in the years by talking about movies.
That's right. Movies across ages and times, dimensions.
Yes. Multiverses too.
Yes.
So I'm sure there's a multiverse somewhere where this podcast is successful and making money.
Right. And we're fabulously wealthy.
There you go.
And
Yeah.
all we have to do is this podcast.
There you go. That would be fucking awesome. It's up to you people at home. If you really cared about us, if you really are friends, that's right. You tell all your other friends to listen, and then go to our Patreon and give us money.
Yeah. Lots of money.
That's right. But what we wanted to do this week is talk about film, but use a format that we've used on a past episode when it comes to music. In the past episode that we did on music, we had what we called Best Album, Worst Album. It was a talk show segment that I directly took from a YouTube show, the John Campea Show. And I'm not even going to say 100% that he came up with it because it seems pretty generic. So it's not like me saying, I've come up with something that's never been done before, a top 10 list.
Mm-hmm, right.
Or Jowsmack, instead of Karnak or something like that. This is generic enough to where discussions, can be had. But, where I got it from was a John Campea show, so I feel it's important to at least name drop it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, good work.
I know. Pat myself on the back, my good deed for the month. Anyway.
Yes.
What we wanted to do is kind of travel back.
Well, actually.
Oh, I shouldn't. I'll take that back. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say that it's the first of the month, but it's not quite the first of the month. So you have been saving this up all month for
Yes.
the last day of the month.
Yes, my good deed.
Wow, good job.
Yeah, took you 31 days to do something nice, you fuck.
Well, I wasn't going to say that. That's the inside part that you don't say out loud.
That's right. That's right. Anyway,
Anyhow.
we'll go back to it. I think of that crusty bit to where he was like, yeah, I'm going to do it into a big house. I think it was the film festival episode where he said that line a lot better than I just said it. But, that was, I think, the origin of, I think I just said the quiet part out loud.
Oh, uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool that's a Simpsons reference.
Yep. Most everything is. But what we are going to do this week is do, like we mentioned, talk about films, but we're going to talk about some of our favorite directors in our best film, worst film segment. We're going to be talking about 3 directors, one that got his start in the 70s, one that got a start in the 80s, and one that got a start in the 90s. And I'm already seeing the look on your face like, where are the women directors, Tim? Now, as far as female directors go, that is an instance where I can say there's probably been like 7 female directors in Hollywood history, unfortunately, for big stuff at the very least.
Yeah, it's really disgusting.
What's mostly disgusting, too, is the fact that you can have a big-name male director make a couple of bombs in a row, but if a female director makes one bomb, you don't see her again. She may direct commercials, she may direct like a sitcom after that, but they're not giving her the keys to a car that makes a movie, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I'm sure all of our friends out there already know this stuff. But anyway, back to the topic at hand. Let's do it. We're going to be talking about Steven Spielberg, who again got his his name was first made big in the 70s. In the 80s, we're going to be talking about Rob Reiner. And in the 90s, we're going to be talking about Quentin Tarantino. And again, what we're going to be talking about is our best film and worst film. We will start off by telling the best films and explaining why. And then we will tell the worst films. And then we will go on from there. But broad question here. Was there anything when you were going through their filmographies in terms of coming up with their list? Was there anything that kind of surprised you, or like something that jogged a memory that you forgot about a long time ago, or something like that, or any thoughts that came to mind?
It helped me remember a lot of really great films that I sort of wasn't thinking about, things I'd love to go back and watch, because I rarely look at lists of films. So, I rarely look at people's filmographies. So I noticed that. I noticed that all of these were on Wikipedia. Like there was a Wikipedia filmography for each of these directors. And that made me think like, wow, Wikipedia gives us a lot of information that maybe we wouldn't get anywhere else. Like that's how I feel about Reddit too. It's like there's information there that you don't get anywhere else.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you as a college professor can attest that this is something that is said in classes. You will have professors that will tell you to not utilize Wikipedia as your main source of information. However, to your point, I think Wikipedia is often a great starting point. I think it's something to where when it comes to like filmographies, a great place to go to get a quick idea. And then if something catches your eye, you can dig a little deeper from there. You can go to IMDb, you can go to Reddit, you can buy a book about the making of a certain film or something like that. I mean, like I said, it's a great starting point and has definitely helped a lot of our shows, blossom into fruition.
It's confirmatory sometimes. Do you know what I mean? Like it confirms for me what I already know. Then I feel like, gosh, that's a really good Wikipedia entry.
Yeah, it's only good when you agree with it.
Well, if I know that it's true, then I have no problem with Wikipedia. Because the problem people have with it is you don't know whether it's true or not, right? Like you can't depend on it because any Yahoo could have written it. But it's like such a good example of crowdsourcing that actually works really well.
Yeah, generally, I mean, the people that do write these articles up and the people who edit them on a consistent basis, to your point, yeah, it is nobody's getting paid to do this. It's, people just, volunteering and taking their time. And sure, you will have some idiots that will go on there and make stupid changes for quick laughs that they can screenshot and put on social media. But you will have people that will also be real quick in terms of diving in there and fixing it and bringing it back to what it once was. And also putting limitations on stuff. Like I'm sure they do it with unfortunately, the person who's in the White House, too, just to make sure that the information that is going out is as accurate as possible.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see how long that goes. But anyway, what we wanted to do, like I mentioned, is talk about the best films and worst films from these directors here because they've made a lot of great work. As always, this is just our personal opinion, and if we say something is the best or something is the worst and you disagree with us, fine, great.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, because like what you like.
Yeah, I mean, who are we to yuck someone else's yum?
That sounds naughty. Anyway, shall I go on to my first best with Steven Spielberg?
Yes.
All right. The best with Steven Spielberg, for me, I'm going to have to put the very first film I saw in movie theaters with my grandmother, who recently passed away. E.T., the Extraterrestrial. I actually even got a chance to see the 20th anniversary re-release in theaters with my mother when she was first dealing with her meningioma, non-cancerous brain tumors, which is something she dealt with for the last decade of her life. So, seeing, that with my grandmother and then ultimately my mother 20 years later, definitely great reminiscences. even though they are both two really flawed human beings in a lot of ways. Not that I'm not. Obviously, we have 400 plus episodes to show that. But anyway, I thought more than anything, I thought at the time, and I still think now, it's one hell of a beautiful story. I mean, yes, it is essentially the Jesus story. E.T. is Jesus because he comes, tries to save the day, is nice to people, does miracles, quote unquote. But then bad people come and try and kill him, and he dies, but then comes back to life and then goes back to where he came from.
Wow, that is the Jesus story.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought of it like that before.
Yep. With as much as I've, read and seen about this particular film, it to me, it's like one of those things is like, duh.
Right. I mean, now that you say it, it makes total sense.
Yep. But great story, beautiful music. This has to be some of John Williams' best. Like he, even today, like he can still put out some amazing, amazing music. I know with the last Star Wars movie, he said that he was going to retire, but then he ended up recanting. But keep in mind, he's also in his 90s at this point. So it's not like he's going to be going on a schedule that he had in the 70s and 80s. If he does another project, it's going to be one he wants to do. And I hope that happens for quite a few years more.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I mean, obviously a really great and prolific composer.
Yes, I mean, the music soundtrack of our lives in a lot of ways, in terms of pop culture influence and all that stuff. But anyway, E.T., I don't know if there's anything more I can really say about it because it used to be the most financially successful film of all time until, until like Titanic, Avatar, and stuff like that.
But they don't normalize it, do they? For like based on $1971 or whatever.
No, it depends on the list. Most lists will adjust for inflation because I believe like Gone with the Wind is in the top 10 when you adjust for inflation in terms of how many times it's been re-released and with the money it's made. So.
Interesting.
But do you have any thoughts on E.T.?
Well, I remember seeing it. I believe I remember seeing it in the theater and that it was a Christmas. Was it a big Christmas album or was it a summer spectacular?
I don't recall. You keep on going with your memory and I will see when it was released here.
Okay, my memory is just that I had a monkey puppet that I had gotten as a gift, I thought, for Christmas. And it accompanied me to the theater to see it.
Did you have a name for the monkey puppet?
No. I'm sure I did, but I don't recall it. And the memory that I have of the film is being really scared of the whole section where he's being prodded and poked and they're decommissioning, they're decontaminating everything and...
Yeah, those were actual doctors that were working on DET to try to revive him because Spielberg wanted that bit of authenticity in terms of, because you can have an actor memorize a medical line and say that medical line, but, it would be like me trying to read off a speech from a lawyer. It's like I can read the words, but there's more to it than that, Mm-hmm. And anyway, the person who wrote the screenplay happened to be Harrison Ford's wife at the time, Melissa Matheson. Yeah, and thankfully, Steven Spielberg has made it very clear we will never see a sequel to this movie, which, thank goodness. The closest that we got to a sequel, though, was, and even though it was a commercial, it got a little tear in my eye. I think it was a Comcast commercial, where Elliot was an adult. He had a family, and then out of nowhere on Christmas, E.T. shows up at his house, and then he gets to show E.T. to his family and everything, and then at the end they end up watching like cable or something. But the intention was there, the heart was still there. So I could let that one slide. Let's put it that way. Even though they were trying to make $1. But you could also argue that E.T. with like Reese's Pieces, they were trying to make $1 there. They were trying to make $1 with the books.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
all right.
Everybody's trying to make a dollar.
That's right. Speaking of that, how about you talk about your best Steven Spielberg movie? It looks like you got two choices here.
Well, I have a favorite. I have a favorite and a best because I don't think that my favorite is the best from a film point of view or from a influence point of view. Like there are just so many more. There are just so many Spielberg movies, so many, and really good ones. So it's hard to pick a best one. So that's my favorite. And then my
Well, what was your favorite? I don't think you stated.
my favorite is Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
I've never seen it.
We have to watch it. We must watch it. I think you would like it.
Yeah, I think that's his film after Jaws, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. So
I do know the do 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 do.
I mean, it seems like if they could do all that, they could just like communicate actually. But anyway.
Yeah, what up, yo?
Right, we've figured out quantum whatevers, but we can't communicate with you. Maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah,
Anyway,
aliens take me away.
That's my favorite, and then the one that I think is best, the best Spielberg movie, is The Color Purple. Did you see The Color Purple?
I've seen bits and pieces. My ex-wife was definitely a fan. You know, she was a black woman, so it was definitely one of those ones that she felt she had to see. And I don't think I'm, speaking out of turn, for her by saying that. So I've seen bits and pieces. I'm not saying it's bad. But much like Schindler's List, it has some depths that it goes down to, that if you're not prepared for that, I can see where people would say it's not necessarily for me, because it does have some really dark stuff that it deals with in that film.
Yes, very dark, but that's what makes it about human beings, because there's some really dark things that happen.
Yeah.
So realism, I guess.
Yeah, no aliens in this one.
No aliens in this one.
Yeah.
You almost wish there were aliens.
Whoopi Goldberg's finger doesn't start lighting up.
No. Yeah, so I think it was an influential film. It had the stars, the black producers, directors, stars of the time, right? All worked on this movie.
Now, what are your thoughts on Spielberg as a white man tackling that topic?
Well, so on the one hand, he got it seen by a whole lot of people that wouldn't have seen it otherwise, right? If it had been done by an unknown but wonderful black director, would it have gotten the funding? Would it have gotten the theaters?
Especially in the 80s, yeah.
In the 80s, yeah. Yeah, exactly. So there was a reason the movie was controversial. But yeah, I think in that instance, when there is no one else, and I'm not saying there were no other black directors, I'm just saying I could see from a strategic point of view, if I was trying to get it funded and I could get Spielberg interested in it, then that's going to be very positive for the project.
Correct. I agree there. Debbie Allen, you know who she is, right?
Mm-hmm.
She actually, I believe, bought the film rights to this book in the late 70s and had done a lot of research on it. And she was the one who brought it to Steven Spielberg in the 80s. And initially, he didn't think he was right for it. But, as history shows, he went ahead and did it. And I do think that this is... because I think back to, your comments on Robert Palmer and the Addicted to Love video about how he's not a woman, so he should not be the one commenting on, how women are viewed on MTV. I think this shows that, if we pull that back a little bit, it is possible for someone that is not directly affected by something in terms of a story they're trying to tell, can tell that story so long as they put the work in, or I think in Spielberg's case, the fact that he's Jewish. I mean, I think he definitely has a lot that he can relate to and bring that to the particular story as well, right?
Mm-hmm. There's intersectionality in all things. So these are similar concepts. I agree with that.
Yeah, and basically, long story short, I mean, if you're going to do something like that, put the work in. I know Spielberg himself has come out and said, if I made it today, I'd probably make it a little different and stuff like that. But, a lot of directors or creative types will, do that.
Right, and I mean, that's good that he's grown.
Exactly. But in terms of a way that he's not grown, how about I tell you my worst Steven Spielberg film?
Okay, tell me.
A little indie film he did called Jurassic Park. I hate that movie with a passion. Just an awful, awful, awful movie. What about special effects, Tim? Special effects were fine. They were great for what they were. I'm not denying that. Industrial Light and Magic did a lot of great work, and it was because of that movie that helped bring about the Star Wars 1, 2, and 3, the prequel trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of that, that's one reason I'm glad that film was made. But just awful story, awful script by Michael Crichton, awful book by Michael Crichton. The actors themselves, I have a lot of respect for in that particular movie. The characters they were playing were all two-dimensional, just cardboard goons. Like, it was just... I was glad it was over, and just I felt shame that I gave Steven Spielberg my money to watch that movie in theaters.
Mm-hmm.
Just awful, awful movie.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I remember going to see it at the theater at the age when on Friday night you went to the football game, and on Saturday night you went to the mall, and then walked from the mall to the movie theater and watched a movie on your own with your friends.
Ooh.
All of that on your own with your friends. Gone for hours and hours at the mall.
All right.
And actually hanging out at the mall.
Yeah. Those were the days, I guess. I don't know. I used to hang out in the mall in high school at times too, but
I'm not saying those are the days.
Yeah, you're glad it's over.
I'm glad it's over. I'm just saying that was the time in my life when I saw this movie.
Okay.
And so I don't remember having any response to it really. Like, definitely not a borderline angry response that you had to it.
I mean, I think part of the anger, as you put it, goes towards the folks that do consider this like the greatest thing ever. And it's just like, it's not. Roger Corman put out better stuff with far fewer money to put in terms of the special effects. For me, like I said, I love spectacle, and it did have spectacle, but at the end of the day, you also have to care about the characters on the screen.
Yeah.
And if you don't care about them, then it doesn't matter what they throw at you.
Right. Yeah, I definitely didn't care about those characters.
Yeah. All right. Well, how about you dive into your worst Steven Spielberg pick?
Okay, that is going to be Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. What a piece of garbage. Depending solely on the existence of the franchise, you know what I mean? Like, I hate those movies where it's clear that it shouldn't have been made, and the only reason it got made was not on its own merits, but because it was part of the franchise. Like, they go about it, instead of having it sort of organically become and have it be like a really good book, it gets turned into a really good screenplay, which on its merits is chosen by a really good director. You know what I'm saying? As opposed to just, well, we need a sequel. So you, people who are supposed to be good writers, go into a room and write it, and here's what we want generally to have happen.
I'll put it like this. I've not seen the fifth Indiana Jones, and I know there are mixed reviews on that one as well. If we're only talking about the first four, I would still put this at the bottom of the list of Indiana Jones movies.
Okay, thank you.
But that's still like like a new director in Hollywood would willingly cut off a limb in order to make a movie like that, though. It's like they would do the same thing if they were the ones responsible for The Godfather 3. You know what I mean? It's like the worst from the best is still pretty darn good in some ways, if that makes sense.
I see what you're saying. And so you feel like this movie had redeeming features.
It had some, but the one person who really mucked up the works was one George Lucas.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he had ideas for what he wanted to do with this film. Spielberg and Harrison Ford both tried to talk him out of it, but when Lucas was the one with the money, at the end of the day, they both acquiesced, and we got the results that we did.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that if Spielberg and Harrison Ford and others weren't more involved in the creative process, that Indiana Jones 4 could have somehow been better than it currently was. It could have been worse. We don't know, because history will never, give us the result of that, I guess. But George Lucas, with all the information that's out there, George Lucas is the one responsible for what we saw on the screen, and is responsible for what went wrong on the screen as well. With Cate Blanchett in there, like, she's one of those actresses that I could watch her in anything.
Mm-hmm.
She is absolutely great. I mean, I loved in Hot Fuzz. She had a cameo in Hot Fuzz, and you never even really see her face because she has a mask on, and she's like she's like a cop and like collecting evidence, but she has like a surgical mask on, and like her hair is covered up, and you only see her eyes. But she's one hell of a great actress. She can convey a lot of emotion by just her eyes.
Mm-hmm.
So like seeing her, chew the scenery like she did, seeing Harrison Ford back as Indy, seeing Karen Allen back as Marion, was definitely great. Just overall though, it was a misstep, especially doing the Tarzan thing with the monkeys.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. Okay. Well, I may have missed the mark a little bit there, but
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, no, you're very much. I'm not saying it's a good film. I'm not saying it's one I would even want to voluntarily put on and rewatch again.
okay.
But you know me. I can sit through a lot of stuff that most people would call direct and find something good in it that I enjoy.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, I do watch wrestling after all.
That's right.
Yeah.
But nobody forces you to watch that.
I know. Well, how about we go into the 1980s? This director actually got his start writing for the Smothers Brothers show, along with one Steve Martin.
Really?
Yes. The son of Carl Reiner, Rob Reiner.
Hey.
Yes. You get it? Ooh, hey. Rob Reiner, as an actor, first hit it big in the 70s as Meathead on All in the Family. And from there, ended up working on a TV show called The TV Show in the late 70s that had one Michael McKean and one Christopher Guest playing in this band along with Harry Shearer called Spinal Tap.
Ah.
And that's going to be my choice for the best movie. It came out in ’84, I believe. Rob Reiner's first film. He had a lot of great films, but I ended up picking a different choice because, we had some similar choices, let's put it that way, but just in opposite directions. But
What? I thought your favorites were the worst, and you thought my favorites were the worst?
no, because initially what you have for your worst with Rob Reiner is what I had for my best.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah, but for the sake of talking about something different, and I can bring up why I liked it when, we talk about yours, but
Sure.
this is Spinal Tap.
Yes.
If you are a rock fan of any sort, this is a must-see film. A lot of great names are in it. You have the main cast, Michael McKean, who, if you only knew him at the time from Laverne and Shirley, you're like, whoa, he can do something other than Lenny.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember Laverne and Shirley, and it's like I was aware of who he was, but Lenny was nothing more than a two-dimensional comedy character, and so he couldn't really show his depth as an actor as much as he could. But just all the great scenes in the movie. I especially love that scene where Christopher Guest is doing that beautiful piano thing, and they're listening to it, and then Rob Reiner goes, "What's the name of this?" And then Christopher Guest, Nigel Tufnell goes, "Lick my love pump." Or the whole "Hello Cleveland," but then they get lost underneath the stage at the end. Hearing the stories too about like rock and rollers who've actually watched this movie, like Ozzy Osbourne, when he saw it, said his reaction was he didn't realize it was a comedy. He thought it was a real band.
Of course he did.
Yeah. I mean, but granted, like if he saw it when it first came out in '84, like a couple years later, he was actually at WrestleMania 2 in the corner of the British Bulldogs. And like at the end of the match, when the Bulldogs won their match, you could tell he's like all coked up. And he's like, "British Bulldogs forever." So if he saw it during that era, I can see where he thought it was real. But with the research that McKean, Shearer, Guest, and Rob Reiner did on that movie in terms of studying about what has happened to rock and roll stars, there are a lot of rock stars that have come out and said, that's happened to us. So they did their homework. It also introduced us to like a young that was one of Billy Crystal's early film roles. He played one of the mime waiters, along with a young Dana Carvey. Fran Drescher was in the movie.
Fran Drescher is in the movie.
Yeah, Paul Schaefer was in the movie. He had that famous scene to where, he turns around, shows his ass and goes, "Come on, kick my ass. You can kick my ass right now." Because people forget. I mean, if you only knew, like initially at the time, if you only knew of Paul Schaefer as the band leader for David Letterman's band, you didn't necessarily know that, Paul, despite his music work, also had, work in, the improv in Second City as well. So funny movie. And in September of this year, this is Spinal Tap 2, The End Continues, at theaters.
Yes, I'm very excited about that. So this was the runner-up to what I chose, and actually it was a toss-up. This movie is so good. The very small Stonehenge.
I think that something similar happened to the 80s version of Black Sabbath. That's where they got that from.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
I think one thing that really carries the film, though, it's like I don't know if the film would have been as funny if the music wasn't as good as it was. I mean, Spinal Tap.
Exactly.
Spinal Tap as a band, like Big Bottom, amazing song. They even, in the early 90s, released another album that had a great song called Bitch School. You're like, why do they call it that? I'm not saying that, but it's they knew how to make fun of the rock scene, but also show love to it. Anyway, how about you go on to your Rob Reiner best?
Okay, well, I went with When Harry Met Sally. And why? Because it is probably the best example of the rom-com ever. And I, at least for a large part of my life, liked a rom-com. I do not any longer like a rom-com. But when I did, this was like the ultimate. And I've seen it about 1 million times. Like, I could probably act the whole thing out with very little prompting.
I'll have what she's having.
Exactly.
And you know who that woman was who said that? That was Rob Reiner's mother.
Oh, I think I did know that. That's a good piece of trivia.
Yeah.
There was something about it that just made me feel about potential because of the age I was, right? It was the 80s. I'm a very young person. And seeing this woman move cross country to New York City and have this relationship with a man that was not sexual, that was mostly platonic, all of that was very good. It kind of loses its charm when it turns into a romance. But like I said, it's the best it's the best example of that phenomenon, I think.
I agree. Well, obviously, this did not top my list. I would still say it's definitely up there with Rob Reiner's best. It's definitely one he has to really be proud of. I believe the script was written by Nora Ephron.
Mm-hmm. I think you're right.
Yeah, who used to be married to Carl Bernstein, and apparently she knew the identity of Deep Throat for years.
Really?
And told people left and right, Deep Throat is Mark Felt. Deep Throat is Mark Felt, and nobody really put it out there that she did. I mean, Mark Felt in 2005 ended up going public with the fact that he was like the assistant director of the FBI in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
But she knew. Now, granted, if you know about her relationship with Carl Bernstein, you could understand why she didn't give a fuck about saying that name, because Carl Bernstein was not a nice guy to her.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So anyway, I definitely do enjoy that film. I also love it's unique in a way too, because they throw in those little documentary things with like I don't know if they're real couples or actors playing couples. I've known her since we were both 14. And
Right. Really great classic. It's been imitated so many times now. It's like a thing that The Simpsons do or that South Park does. Like it's a meme.
yeah. Yeah, it set the standard, but then it became a formula. And when it becomes a formula, it becomes boring.
Yeah. Yeah. So you always want to be that one that's setting the standard, right?
Yep. Well, speaking about setting the standard, how about I talk about my worst Rob Reiner film?
So under the standard.
Yeah, yeah. Standard can suck it.
Suck it.
Yeah. The Princess Bride.
I cannot believe you're saying this. Even after I forced you to watch it.
I got a pie in the face to be able to see that movie. And I said from the beginning, I've never really been a fantasy type of fan. Sword, sorcery, wizards, all that silly stuff. It just never worked for me. There's only one scene in that movie that got a laugh out of me. And it was I believe Montoya was starting to try to sword fight with the Christopher Guest character. But then the Christopher Guest character just threw his sword on the ground, turned and ran the other direction as fast as he could. That got a laugh from me.
That's a funny moment.
Yeah, but other than that, it just didn't work. Now, I'm not going to go, because I think we've already, openly admitted it. The stuff we did in the past in terms of No Chance in Hell was me being a little overly dramatic in terms of how this movie affected me as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, like Andre the Giant did make me cry, but it wasn't something I held a grudge over, folks.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I believed you.
Well, okay, it shows you how good I was. No, honestly, it just ended up becoming funny seeing people's reaction, saying I never watched The Princess Bride because Andre made me cry.
Yeah, uh-huh.
So I went with that story, and then, when we had the opportunity to build to the No Chance in Hell special that we did, that is in our archives, I thought it was a great way to kind of build up to that. But overall, like I said, not really a fantasy fan. Have a lot of respect for the writer, though, because the writer, William Goldman, did a lot of classic work before, like All the President's Men, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Mm-hmm. This is based on a book that he wrote. Fezzik, in the book and in the movie, was solely intended to be played by Andre the Giant.
Had them in mind.
Yep. Because William Goldman, when he was writing the original book, saw Andre the Giant on TV. I think it was either in a wrestling match or when Andre played Bigfoot on the $6 Million Man. So, there is that bit of trivia right there. But, yeah, not my thing. I know you love the movie.
I do. I love that movie.
Yeah. So,
I think it's quite good.
Okay, well, how about... Speaking of good,
and speaking of not agreeing.
Yeah, let's hear your worst.
My worst is Misery. Misery Loves Company. This movie, I do not like creepy movies. and this was Creep movie, and I had nightmares about it. And so I don't think that people should make movies like that for innocent people to have to watch and then have nightmares because of it.
Well, I mean, if someone forced you to watch the movie, then it's not the movie maker's fault. It's the person that forced you to watch it who should get their ass kicked. You know?
Well, I mean, I just didn't like the movie.
Well, that's fine. I mean, I didn't like The Princess Bride. Here we are.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I just, I didn't like what happened in that movie.
You don't like scary stuff. You've made that very clear.
Yeah, I don't like scary stuff.
I happen to love this movie. I was initially going to put this under my best choice, but I saw that, you were going to put this as your worst. So I decided that, anything I could say positive about it, I could say here. And that's why I chose Spinal Tap. And I won't go into it too far, but it's based on Stephen King's book. And this is one of the instances to where I think one of the rare instances to where the movie in a lot of ways is better than the book.
Really?
Yes. And most importantly, too, I think it gave us Kathy Bates. This is her first big breakout role.
Sure, that's true. Kathy Bates is cool.
She definitely cool. And also for a horror movie, because you do have to put it under the horror genre, like it's not often where you see horror movies where the main villain is a woman.
Nope.
The first Friday the 13th does.
Psycho.
Nope. Because his mother's dead. It's him dressed up as his mother, thinking he's his mother.
But she's like a bad character didn't those things happen?
In Psycho 2, 3, and 4, they do flesh out Norman Bates' backstory, and Norman Bates did not get to be the person he was by having a well-adjusted mother.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, see, we're talking about Norman Bates. I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight.
Oh, you will sleep.
I'm not going to be able to sleep.
We'll talk about something nice. But one thing Stephen King said about this book, though, he said that in hindsight, because when he was writing this, he was still an addict, a drug addict, and dealing with that in alcoholism. And basically what he ended up realizing was the female character in this story was alcohol. It was his addiction, basically. And, him as the writer in that story had to break free from that, which, ultimately what happens. The writer is able to get free and move on and be happy. Mm-hmm. So there was that. But I don't want to give you any more nightmares. That would be a bad thing.
Yes.
So how about I dive into my Quentin Tarantino best movie?
Sounds great.
All right. Now, this is another instance to where I changed my initial choice because you're going to be talking about one here when you talk about your worst.
Oh.
Yes.
Another.
Yep. Yeah, polar opposites, people. Polar opposites. But this is one I've talked about before, so I don't think I have to spend too much time on it. And it is a classic, and I hope to be able to see it in theaters at some point. I know it's been at the Hollywood a few times over the past couple of years, so I'm sure it'll show up at the Hollywood Theater again. But Pulp Fiction. It was Tarantino, in a lot of ways, at his best, because the one critique I think you can level at Tarantino in his later years is that the more money he got to make films, the more lazy he got. Because he started utilizing a lot of the same actors, and a lot of the actors were well-known A-list actors, whereas in this era, he was taking some major chances because people weren't giving John Travolta any more movies after the Look Who's Talking franchise bombed,
Yeah.
And stuff like that. Nobody knew who Samuel L. Jackson was. Bruce Willis's career was in a downturn because this was after Hudson Hawk or something like that. Mm-hmm. So he took a lot of chances, and it, home run in all cases. Phil Lamar, who does the voice of Hermes on Futurama, among other voices, was Marvin in the film, the one who got his head blown off.
No.
In the back of the car.
Uh-huh.
Yep. Harvey Keitel, of course, played the Wolf, Winston Wolf. I love that character. And what a soundtrack. easily one of the best soundtracks ever made, and it's what I love about the soundtrack too is that it got me interested in other stuff. This soundtrack introduced me to Al Green, and I'm not going to say I'm Al Green's biggest fan by any means, but without this soundtrack, I would not have fallen in love with his work. Someone who grew up in my home fucking town, and it was Pulp Fiction that made me, put two and two together.
Well, you never know, and it just goes to show you what a good movie can do.
Exactly. I know you are a fan of Pulp Fiction.
I do. I like Pulp Fiction a lot. It is funny. And that's sort of what I like about Tarantino is when it can be funny at the same time that it's moving, at the same time that it's angry. I don't know.
Yep. Agreed. And, again, this is one that we've talked about before on numerous past episodes of Friends Talking Nerdy, which you can find in our archives. So I don't think we have to say anything more about that. How about you tell us your best Tarantino movie?
All right. It is going to be Inglourious Bastards.
Ew.
Ew.
This is the start of his downfall for me. But go ahead.
Well, of his downfall. So it's a great story. It's, the story of a Nazi fighting force and how they end the war sooner by undertaking a mission. And it's freaking hilarious. I think it is his funniest movie. Obviously, Nazis are bad. So we don't really spend any time in the movie establishing that Nazis are bad. You don't have to tell that story again. And I appreciated that ability to not have to address all of that and try to tell a story with some humor.
Because it is definitely possible to make a story that has humorous elements set in dark places. I mean, I think of that Roberto Benigni movie, Life is Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So it can be done, but it's one of those things that, it's either you do it right or you don't do it at all. I think, in Tarantino's defense with this film, he set the tone for the type of film that he wanted to make right off the bat. And you're correct. Like, if he had gone and, had like scenes in concentration camps as well, that would have really been overkill.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to your point, we know, we know they're bad. They need to go. And so, at least there was that. But for me, just this, in terms of when I talked about the laziness, he just picked the obvious choices to fill the roles. I know some people ended up not accepting the parts, like the part played by horror film director Eli Roth. The Jewish guy who loved on the team that loved to like beat people with a baseball bat, was originally offered to Adam Sandler.
Really?
That would have been interesting.
That would have been interesting. I think it's probably a good choice of his agent to not do that movie.
Well, I think, like, on the one hand with Sandler, like I'm not gonna, like, it's weird bad-mouthing him when all of his movies make a lot of money. It's like he definitely has an audience, but I think there's a lot more talent there too, and I would be nice to see that a more often. Like, he has a formula and he does that formula well. That formula generally doesn't work for me, but that's who cares, because it's working for him. But I do think he has the ability to be a great actor. He just hasn't had many opportunities, and that could have potentially been one of them.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, So, but to be clear, I think this is also a situation of Tarantino's worst would be a new director would love to have on their resume, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Yeah, Tarantino at his worst is still going to be better than most stuff. But speaking of worst,
What do you think? What do you think is the worst here?
Django Unchained.
I can't believe that you're saying that. That was the other one that I was going to choose as my best.
I think, though, I think back to some of the criticism that Spike Lee has leveled towards Tarantino, and I think a lot of it in the past was mostly undeserved. Like in Spike Lee apparently was not happy with how Tarantino wrote the black characters in the movie Jackie Brown, for instance, using the N-word a lot. And Tarantino's defense was, I am writing about people who live in, this culture to where that word is thrown out commonly. And I can get behind that. That is a good defense. And, people like, I think Samuel L. Jackson, if he really truly was offended, he would not have done that movie. You know what I mean? But this, I think, is just one instance to kind of tie back into Spielberg with The Color Purple, to where I don't know if this is material that Tarantino should have been tackling. It just came off a little too heavy-handed, and like it showed. I think this kind of did the opposite of what you said Inglourious Basterds did well, because it showed too much of the horrors of slavery, and then tried to be a grindhouse type of picture where the hero can, keep shooting the gun and not have to change the bullets until it's right for the story.
Right.
And, that dichotomy wasn't a good fit for me. And also the Leonardo DiCaprio at this point, like I have enjoyed his work in the past. I don't enjoy his work now. It's been years since I've even considered watching a Leonardo DiCaprio movie.
Really?
Yeah, because he essentially likes to play the same character, and it's just loud and just douchebaggy, even if he is the hero of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So, but sounds like you liked Django.
I did. I like Django. I mean, I agree with all of your criticisms of it. I enjoyed watching it. I didn't enjoy watching my least favorite.
Well, what is your least favorite?
Kill Bill 1 and 2, if I can get them both in there. Very seldom will I turn a movie off. But I turned off Kill Bill 1, and I never turned on Kill Bill 2. So, and at the time, I was like really into Tarantino.
I was going to put Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2 as my best choice. And, when I saw that you had it as the worst, I decided I could talk about why I liked them why I liked them at this point. And to me, it's the action. It was his first real action movie that he ever made, and he showed his love of Hong Kong action movies by, hiring everybody that he did to, help him make this film. This film actually started on the set of Pulp Fiction. Because, do you remember Uma Thurman's character in Pulp Fiction, Mia, was on a TV pilot? And it was called Fox Force 5, where she played like a super agent and all that. And the agents that she talks about in terms of Fox Force 5 are the group of assassins in Kill Bill.
Oh.
That's where it all came from, because you'll see at the beginning of the movie, it's like created by Q and U, or, Quentin and Uma Thurman.
Oh.
I can understand, why you would not like that film, because in terms of the violence, it gets bloody fast, and that is definitely not your thing. So I can definitely see that. For me, though, I think this is his last brave film in terms of the people he hired. Like, initially for Bill, he wanted Warren Beatty.
Oh.
And Warren Beatty ultimately ended up passing on it, but he's the one who recommended David Carradine from Kung Fu. Mm-hmm. And most people at that time, when he was put in that film, I mean, in a lot of ways, it was like what happened with Travolta in Pulp Fiction. It was just like an oddball choice, but it worked. Or like Pam Grier and Jackie Brown. Mm-hmm. A great choice. Just great cast, another great soundtrack. Robert Rodriguez actually did the soundtrack for Kill Bill Volume 2, the entire soundtrack to the movie, for $1.
Wow.
Just because he wanted to make the music for that particular movie. And what I love about Volume 2, I mean, you're not going to see it, so I don't mind spoiling it. The bride was left for dead. She was pregnant, but she ended up in a coma for a few years, and she thought her baby was dead, but she finds out the baby's alive and is living with Bill. And even though the first film was a wild action fest, violence everywhere, physical violence everywhere, what I loved about Kill Bill Volume 2 was like the final battle was an emotional battle until the very end, but it was Uma Thurman and David Carradine literally just sitting in a chair and fighting and trying to get their sword out, in the chair until she did like this 5-finger heart punch that Hong Kong. It's made sense in the movie, I guess, but it's like a special karate move that if you do it, the person is immediately going to die after they get up and take a few steps, and just I absolutely adore that film.
Yeah, I see that. And when you describe it, I can understand why you would like it.
Yes. I mean, this was his major epic, and just well done. But to your point, I can also see why you did not like it as well.
Yeah, and it wasn't only because of the violence and the gore, but it was also because I thought the movie was just boring.
You didn't like Buck, who likes to fuck? No?
I don't remember much about it because I just liked it so much.
Okay. Well, yeah. I think one actor that I did like in it was Mrs. Neil Young, Daryl Hannah.
Oh, uh-huh.
Yeah, as the nurse with the one eye. She had the eye patch on throughout the movie because she did great.
Yeah.
But anyway, any other thoughts on these directors?
No, I mean, I think we covered it.
We covered. Yeah, we said enough, right?
We said enough about it.
About an hour's worth of stuff.
Yeah.
So let's move on. Before we wrap things up this week, the professor here dressed up as a narwhal and went protesting.
I sure did. Narwhals Against Nazis. So went to the Tesla Takedown on Saturday. It was March 29th. And there were coordinated hundreds of protests on the same day, not at the same time, on the same day, protesting Elon Musk's involvement in our government and trying to get people to divest their portfolios of Tesla stock and divest themselves of their Tesla cars because it's socially unacceptable to drive a Tesla. And so, as soon as I heard about it, I was like, I definitely want to go to this. And then their promotional flyer had Left Shark on it. Remember Left Shark? So there was Left Shark and Right Shark in Katy Perry's halftime Super Bowl show.
Do I look like somebody that would watch anything with Katy Perry in it?
No, I'm telling you about it now, though.
Okay.
Okay, so Katy Perry's performing at the Super Bowl, and she has two sharks, guys in shark suits. She had some weird shit. She had these two guys in shark suits. One on the left side of the stage, one on the right side of the stage. And the one on the right side of the stage is doing choreography that looks like normal for a guy in a shark costume. But the left shark is just doing fucked up shit, not doing what he's supposed to be doing, and just so being a left shark is being, dumb. And so that inspired me to, I think of ocean creatures, and I was like, I have a narwhal onesie. What if I could be a narwhal? And how is that related to Nazism? And so you actually helped me come up with the slogan.
Narwhals Against Nazis.
That's right. And so the protest was very well attended. And what we did was we lined up on both sides of the street going in front of the Tesla dealership and went really far. There were a lot of people there. It was, I don't know how long it was, but it was much longer than I thought it would be. And I think it was partially because we were just lined up one in a row on the side of the road, right?
Right.
It made it seem like there were more people there, I think.
Was there a huge police presence?
No police. Didn't see a single police person. Did see a big red truck with some Trump supporters who were coming to try and intimidate Proud Boys coming to intimidate people. But most of the protesters were like 60-year-olds. 65-year-olds, I'd say, like retirees who've got time for that kind of shit. Weren't a lot of families, was really young people and older people.
Yeah. I mean, if you've heard about it on Fox News, of course, they would have said this narwhal was trying to be a terrorist and break stuff and, hurt people and set stuff on fire, because they really overdid it. But it's showing you just how much of a mess our media is in as well, because on the flip side, on, media sources that we've in the past generally considered to be truthful and stuff like that, you barely heard about it as well.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I think of, the podcast that I listen to on a regular basis, Countdown with Keith Olbermann, and what Keith mentioned on one of his recent ones, like one surefire way to really get this situation done with is to lose corporations lots and lots of money.
Mm-hmm.
And Tesla losing lots and lots of money right now. I mean, as we record this, it's March 31st, the end of the first quarter.
That's right.
So when the first quarter stock information comes out about Tesla and it's down really low, I can imagine they might have some conversations about kicking Mr. CEO off the board, and then what's going to happen to his stock at that point, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, he got kicked off the board of PayPal.
Yeah.
No, he got he was the CEO of PayPal, and he got kicked out of that job. He remained a large shareholder in the company, but
yeah, I mean, it seems like since the press doesn't want to do its job, it's really going to have to be corporations losing lots of money. That will hopefully get that mess out of Washington. But
right, which means everybody has to do their part.
Yes, which does show the importance, to your point of if you have the ability to go down and join a protest, do it.
Mm-hmm.
This is the fight for the life of our country here. And it
only takes 3.5% of the population participating in that kind of protest that has changed things.
Yeah, I mean, 3.5% of 330 million was like what, maybe 3 million at best, or
Mm-hmm.
yeah, something like that approximately. I got to use my big head for something, right? But yeah, I'm proud that you took the time out of your day to go do that, and it made me happy seeing that my fancy slogan was on your board that you were showing to people. If only you were on the local news.
Yeah, I did get. I think I got a picture taken of me by a professional photographer.
Well, there you go.
So maybe I'm out there somewhere.
Well, all right. Hopefully.
If
we see it, we'll put it up on friendstalkingnerdy.com.
Yeah, and so really, why did I do this? Why did I wear the narwhal costume? Because joy is a combatant against fascism. Like emotion, passion, love, all of these good things. Fascists do not have them.
Yeah, they're the ones that are going to storm a Capitol. They're the ones that are going to put people's lives in danger. People who love, on the other hand, are not going to do that. They're going to make their point without harming others.
Mm-hmm.
We go back to the March books that we talked about with John Lewis and the Civil Rights Movement. Then John Lewis and the others sitting in that diner trying to get served was not hurting anybody.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If they were throwing bricks through windows, different story. But obviously that didn't happen, and you were not throwing bricks through a Tesla.
No, but people could have shown up and done that.
Yeah, and
then it would have been like the protesters did this.
Yeah, well, I'm proud of you.
Well, thanks.
All right. Well, there was something I did. I was actually invited to be on a YouTube show here recently.
What?
Yes. You can find this on friendstalkingnerdy.com. I put the YouTube link on our page. It is, I was invited to be on the MCU's Bleeding Edge YouTube channel to talk about the movie Commando. Awesome movie.
What? Now, so tell me what this has to do with the MCU.
I don't know.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I don't know. I mean, I just became familiar with this channel here not too long ago. So, I mean, they were kind enough, like I said, to invite me to be on, and I think I did pretty well. I was super nervous, ended up, because they were based on the East Coast, ended up taking the day off of work just to be able to join the recording and everything. But I think I was able to talk my points without stuttering too much, like I sometimes do on the show here. And
I thought your presentation was very good.
well, I thank you. Yeah, you saw the first half.
Yeah.
And then you were like, I gotta go to bed. But
There
definitely,
was a lot of talking about that movie.
yeah, 2-hour conversation about an 88-minute movie.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. But, the thing is, it's a great movie.
it is.
Commando.
I was able to show it to you here the other day. And yeah, it's a great.
Ironically, as I'm saying.
I'm not even going to go the ironically part here. Like, is it Citizen Kane? By no means. But it's a great popcorn movie. It's there to make you laugh at the silliness of it. And I think it was also a great showcase of the evolution of Arnold Schwarzenegger as an actor. He's never going to be considered the greatest actor ever. Like, he can't play Macbeth now. He couldn't play Macbeth then. But it's great seeing him evolve because he has gotten pretty decent as an actor.
He was also governor of California.
Yes. As a Republican.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway. So the link to the MCU's Bleeding Edge channel I'll have in the show description here. Like I mentioned, they were kind to ask me, so I definitely encourage you all to check out some of their work. And again, it's just a bunch of guys kicking back, talking about action movies. Nothing wrong with that.
No. I mean, it was a pretty big sausage party, so.
Yeah. Come here, look at it.
Exactly. Where are the women?
Yeah. Anyway. Speaking of that...
Surely some of them wanted to talk about Commando for 2 hours.
Maybe. Maybe not with that group. I don't know. But anyway. But one other thing when it comes to YouTube that is becoming quite interesting is the WWE is actually adding onto their WWE Vault channel and their WCW Vault channel a lot of older content that used to be on their WWE Network service or on Peacock. And I think it's one of the big reasons why I've decided that, not subscribing to Peacock anymore wouldn't be that bad of a thing. Because while I do like a lot of the new stars and there are events that I, do on occasion want to see, I'm not necessarily one that has to watch every single pay-per-view, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times professional wrestling is like Saturday Night Live in the sense that even during the best of times on Saturday Night Live, the entire show wasn't always funny. It was, segment 1, segment 5, or whatever that got the laughs. And similar to wrestling, you can have a horrible show with one really great match or one really great promo. And what I'm liking about what they're doing is the fact that, they are putting up a lot of old content, like just older pay-per-views. The complete event is on YouTube now. A lot of old wrestling TV shows, the full content from, opening to close is on there now. You also have you also have just matches as well in the Vault section. Like during the Royal Rumble time, they put a number of Royal Rumble matches on there, the entire match itself, onto YouTube for free. Now, in the past, I had my understanding was that when the WWE Network was a thing, the older content wasn't what was bringing people in.
Mm-hmm.
It was the fact that they could pay $9.99 a month and get all of the pay-per-views for that particular price. And the more I thought about it, and it was like when I brought up Jeopardy on Pluto TV, right? It's like there aren't many people who would necessarily want to buy like a season 25 Jeopardy box set on DVD or Blu-ray. But if it's on something like YouTube TV to where, or, Pluto TV to where can they just put it on and it's on in the background, like, it was when it was first on the air. I think the results speak for themselves. People enjoy that. And I think when it comes to professional wrestling, I think the WWE is finally realizing that for the older stuff, that may be the way to go. So put it on YouTube. If you don't have YouTube Premium, sure, ads are going to pop up. So what? But you get content now that was not on there before. That's entire pay-per-views, entire classic matches that you can just watch now. And if you're a wrestling fan, that's amazing.
Well, that's cool.
Indeed. But
so that means you can show me like some of your historically favorite matches. And we don't have to watch the whole thing.
Yes. Yeah, we don't have to have it on the cock either.
Yeah, we don't have to put it on the cock.
Yes. The cock went limp. All right. Anything else you want to say to our friends at home?
Just have a lovely week.
All right. Just like Annie is right now, and I'm petting her.
Yes.
She's a happy kitty.
Yes, she is.
And Mimsy's looking at my hand all jealous, like, why aren't you petting me?
Yeah, they're both just all over you, and I'm over here all by myself.
Yeah. I'm so lonely.
I'm so lonely.
All right, so with that, each Monday we'll have something in this podcast space to entertain your ear holes. Until we meet again, we bid you adieu.
So long.
I'll have what she's having. Subscribe to Friends Talking Nerdy
on YouTube Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify,
or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Goodbye, darling.